Ladies, young ladies and gentlemen, good evening once again. Good evening to all of you. In international news, while Volodymyr Zelensky is calling for help, while NATO says it has extremely limited ammunition production capacity, while all of Ukraine is under the impact of this massive attack unprecedented against Ukraine that Russia carried out during the night of June 5 to 6, 2025. Yes, while Russia launched more than 400 missiles and 40 drones, so a total of 440. Meanwhile, Zelensky no longer understands anything. Zelensky coordinated and carried out the launch of a major counterattack against Russia. Yes, and they still managed to destroy military sites in Russia. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this conflict is becoming bogged down. It's becoming like an incurable wound. I'm starting to think that that maybe Donald Trump was right. The situation there is becoming very, very serious. There are no victors, ladies and gentlemen. They strike here, they strike there. Russian territory is now a victim. Just 5 days later, Russia is hit again with the powder of NATO. NATO doesn't get tired. What happened? An oil refinery was wrecked. Yes, an oil refinery was sent to its eternal rest. It was destroyed. And something else too. This proves that NATO is determined, even though NATO doesn't have the means for what it is doing. And even though NATO doesn't imagine the consequences. Because what Russia fired last night were missiles and drones. They didn't use nuclear weapons. They are going to push Russia toward using nuclear weapons. Let's go deeper, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go deeper. On this Friday, June 6, 2025, the news is being widely reported by the Ukrainian press and also by Russian officials who confirm that Ukraine has done something dirty, even if it doesn't reach the level of what happened recently. But the job itself is dirty. So Ukraine has launched a new attack against Russian side Russia, targeting military infrastructure. Now, what needs to be clarified before we go any further is that the story about 40 bombers was false. They themselves are now saying 12 Russian bomber planes. It doesn't even reach 12. We saw a video that went viral in which there's a soldier, I think, I'm not sure, he's French, but working for Russia, who said that is false. They just damaged a few, about 5 planes, but they didn't really do anything. So, according to the information, Ukraine managed to shoot down its own drones over an oil depot in Engels, in the Saratov region. That is, Ukraine launches the drone and then shoots down its own drone so that the fire comes down. So, they managed to do it. This is the oil depot. This is in Engels, in the Saratov region. But Ukraine didn't stop there. Ukraine NATO didn't stop there. They also hit the Diaghilevo air base in the Ryazan region. And as if all that weren't enough, Ukraine NATO also struck the Progress Defense Plant in Michurinsk. There you go. That's in the Tambov region. When you hear Oblast, understand it as a region. So, in total, we have 3 regions that were hit and the targets were reached. According to information provided by the Russian army, the Ukrainian army, and confirmed by local authorities, the regional governors in Russia. But Vladimir Putin is promising a response. Russia is promising a response that will shake things up even more. Also, it should be added that the Russian oil refinery, Angel, which I mentioned earlier, is on fire. In any case, at the moment I'm recording this video conference, it is exactly 3:30 p.m. GMT. I don't know what time you will receive the video conference. The governor of the Saratov Oblast region, the governor named Roman Buzagin, stated that the fire had broken out at an unspecified industrial facility in Engels 2. He did not provide further details. Meanwhile, residents were sharing images of an oil depot in flames. So the governor confirmed it. But on social media, on Telegram and elsewhere, you can see residents of the area sharing images. But it's no. Do you see the flames? We can see them sharing these images. So the connection was made to say that obviously this is happening in Saratov, since Governor Roma had to confirm it. So the Crystal Refinery supplies fuel to the Engels 2 military airfield. So they really targeted it. It's a refinery that supplies the Engels 2 airfield. Engels 2, where they went last time claiming they had destroyed 40 bombers. But that was nonsense. It was fake. It was a lie. So Ukraine and NATO are determined. That is just to wear Russia down, knowing that they don't have the strength to keep going. They're still being asked to go to negotiations, but they're stalling. They're acting strangely. So, but what they've done, the assessment of the damage is not yet. Russia hasn't released the damage assessment yet. They themselves haven't released the assessment yet. Yes, but the Russian authorities, especially the Russian State Duma, are announcing retaliatory measures that are even harsher than what happened last night. Yes. So that means we're going to be stuck in this back and forth. We're going to be stuck in this back and forth. As Donald Trump said, Ukraine will launch. Russia will retaliate. Launch, retaliate, launch, retaliate. Until one side gets tired, and it will be Ukraine that gets tired. Because NATO has already warned Ukraine. Ukraine will run out of ammunition. Even now, there isn't any left. It's the little that we've delivered to them recently that they're currently using. Ukraine will stop, and Russia will quietly keep going. And that's how it is. Russia's strategic plan by 2026 to occupy the entire Ukrainian territory, especially in the east, will come to pass. And that's why the statement of the chief of the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, the Deputy Chief of Staff, is gradually being confirmed. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that was the top story in international news. Thank you for sharing it as much as possible. I'll be back with more news shortly. This was the voice of your humble servant, the one and only Samurai.